Guys, it finally happened. After almost 2 years of selling on Etsy, I hit my first $10,000 month. Actually, a little over 12,000, almost $13,000, which feels kind of surreal to say out loud because if you've been watching this channel for a while, you probably know that this whole thing started as an experiment. Like, I didn't know if I was ever gonna make real money doing this, although that was the goal. But I definitely did not think I'd be sitting here one day, look at my dashboard that says almost $13,000 in revenue. And truth be told, this didn't happen because I suddenly became a better designer overnight. There was no magical number of listings to hit, and it wasn't because of a listing that went viral. Though having a few bestsellers does help, and there wasn't some secret Etsy hack that changed everything instantly. If anything, this happened because I started to approach Etsy in a different way over the past few months, especially when it came to product research and competition. And I think that's one of the biggest reasons that I finally hit this number. So today, I want to show you guys some behind the scenes looks at my best month, like I usually do, and more importantly, the strategies that got me there. So first, let's jump into the stats. So in April, I got 9,842 visits, and with a conversion rate of 4.1%, that got me 403 orders for the month. Now, of course, there are some good days and there are some bad, with my worst performing days having only 4 orders, such as on Easter, and then again on April 24 for some reason. But on really good days, I got up to 22 orders as my highest number of orders. In terms of revenue, that got me almost $13,000. So that's $12,948 in revenue. With my worst performing day getting me only $59 or almost $60 in revenue. But my best performing day got me $753 in revenue for that day, which is wild because just a year ago, that's how much profit I would make in 1 month. And it's crazy to think that that's the amount I'm getting in revenue in just a day. Now, as you may know, I like to run ads. So let's jump into my ads dashboard. So from my ads, I got almost 205,000 views, 3,716 clicks, which got me 191 orders. Now that's almost half of my total orders for the month. In terms of spend, I spent almost $1,800 in ad spend. Now what's interesting is that I had actually set my budget to $1,000 per day, but I've been spending less than $100 on average per day despite having such a high budget set, and the most that I've spent is actually just $99 in one day. So I honestly don't have an answer whether there's a difference between setting it to $300 per day, $500 per day versus $1,000 per day as a daily ad budget. But in terms of my ROAS, it is at 2.88. All in all, I would say that my ads have been profitable. Now, finally, when we go to my monthly statement, it says here that my net profit on Etsy for April was 609,000 pesos. Of course, we still have our Printify costs. And for this month, that came to a total of 405,800 pesos. So if we subtract that, that leaves me with 203,700 pesos, or about $3,339 in profit for the month. And if we compute the profit margin, that leaves us with about 33.4% in profit margins, which I am very happy about considering that the average profit margin for print-on-demand products is around 20 to 30%. So despite even spending on ads, I still have a profit margin that I'm very, very comfortable with. And this month has been so amazing. I'm so happy I finally reached this point, and I'm so happy to share with you guys what went down. Now, the biggest thing that changed for me was finding gaps in the market. I feel like one of the hardest things about Etsy right now is that everyone is selling the same stuff. Same shirts, same mugs, same ornaments come Christmas time. And no shade, but I don't even honestly blame people for it because if you're new, most of the advice online basically tells you to look at what's already selling and make your own version of it. And yes, I do admit that these product types will always have demand. Like people are always looking for shirts, of course. Mugs is a simple, reliable gift. And ornaments, well, who doesn't love a custom ornament to hang on their Christmas tree? But I think the problem is that by the time that most people discover those ideas, the market is already insanely saturated. And to be completely honest, I'm the type of person who hates competition, even if it's a strong signal for demand. So instead of trying to compete harder in crowded product categories, I started looking for places where fewer sellers were paying attention. And the best place I found for this was in a place that was already familiar, already reliable, and that is actually inside Printify. I've been using Printify for over a year now, and Printify is constantly adding new product types to their catalog. And every time they do, I get really excited because there's this small window where demand exists, but not that many people or sellers are making products for it yet. And that is the opportunity that I found. Most people stay in familiar categories because that's what they know to design for. Again, like the shirts, mugs, and ornaments. But newer products are usually lower in competition simply because people haven't adapted to them yet. There aren't many mock-ups available, there aren't many design examples to copy from, and honestly, a lot of people just ignore them because they feel unfamiliar. But for me, that became the entire strategy. So I started thinking what product types are people underutilizing right now, and what product types have other YouTube gurus not talked about yet. And once I found a product type that looked promising and would fit well in my shop for my target market, I didn't even start from scratch creatively. That's another thing that changed for me. I stopped trying so hard to invent completely original ideas. Now, I don't mean I was gonna copy designs, obviously, I hate that, but I started paying more attention to concepts that were already proven to work. Because if you spend enough time on Etsy, especially in massive niches like moms, teachers, or bachelorette products, you start noticing patterns. Certain art styles start repeating, certain typography styles keep showing up, and of course, certain colors are popular for different contexts. So those niches move so much volume that trends usually show up there before they spread into other categories on Etsy. So once I started realizing that, I stopped looking at those products as things to copy and started looking at them as more like inspiration libraries. Because at that point, the goal wasn't to take the exact design. The goal was to take the idea behind it and adapt it to a completely different product type that wasn't gaining traction yet. Because when you think about it, designing for shirts follows completely different design rules compared to designing for something like blankets, tumblers, or even hats. There are some nuances there. Like, sure, technically you could just slap a shirt design onto a blanket, but when you actually think about how people use blankets, they usually lean more into full artwork, repeating patterns, softer compositions, or designs that feel more decorative overall. A shirt design usually has to catch attention, but a blanket has to feel more immersive and fit inside a room. So instead of directly transferring designs from one product to another, I started translating them based on the product itself. And honestly, this is where Kittl remains a huge part of my workflow. So let me show you what I mean. For example, Printify just released this cotton waffle throw, and it is an embroidered product. So this is something that I would want to add to my shop because when we think about blankets, of course, we already know about the fleece, the velvet, and the woven tapestry type of blankets, right? So this is one of the opportunities that I think would make a great addition to my shop. And so when we look at the personalization options, we could add some embroidery here in the bottom left, in the bottom center, or in the bottom right. Now to design for this product, I'm just gonna search for inspiration on Etsy. I just typed in Mother's Day shirt and see what is trending for mothers right now. And of course, we have the goose. It's still popular, it's still trending. Okay, we have strawberries. And I feel like last year, lemons was sort of big. So our strawberry is now the biggest fruit for the year. You also have coffee. And okay, I like this one. We have the seagulls yelling Mrs. Brown. This is probably a reference to Finding Nemo, but I think it's safe to say that Disney can't own seagulls as a species. So maybe seagulls, it's their time to shine. I think I want to play with this for our waffle blanket. So I'm just gonna copy this and paste this into a Kittl workspace. I'm gonna crop the art from the shirt just so we could have a cleaner reference image, because what I'm gonna do next is I'm gonna actually throw this into an AI image generator. I'm gonna click on remix and let's say using the same art style, create a drawing of a screeching seagull.
A few moments later.
So, something to note when it comes with AI is that sometimes it takes a few tries for it to really get to your vision, and sometimes it's a matter of refining your prompt and giving it the most specific instructions that you could. So, I'm just gonna play around with my prompts until I get something that I'm happy with.
One eternity later.
After a bit of trial and error and a few weird outcomes, I finally landed on this character. Now, because this is going to be an embroidered product, we need to prepare it a bit. So first I'm gonna remove the background, and then I'm gonna click on vectorize. I will max out the colors and click on vectorize, because one thing to note about embroidered products is that there is a limit to the color palette. So what we're doing now is we are going to change the colors in this character to match the available thread colors for embroidered products. So I have this chart here of the viable colors of embroidery threads, and the maximum it could go in one image is 6 colors. So I want to change a few of these colors to narrow it down to 6. So we have black. I'm going to keep the black. Then we have this gray shade. Let's make that black. This one as well. For gray, I'm going to use this shade. Of course, we have white. We will keep it at white. Then we have our yellows and oranges. I'm just making sure that all the colors follow this pre-made palette. So we were able to narrow this down to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 colors. That's good enough for me so that it would print well when embroidered. Now I'm gonna take this design and export it as an SVG. Then on Printify, I'm gonna upload this. Because I want a personal element to this, I'm actually gonna make it scream out the name of the mom. So I'm gonna add a personalizable element, which is personalizable text. And let's just say, for example, this is gonna be the mom's name, but for now, let's just say Linda. And I just wanna change the font a bit to make it prettier. I think I'll go with this one. As you can see, there is a needle icon. That means it is embroidery ready. And I'm just gonna turn it a bit and adjust it like so. And it's as simple as that, you know. I didn't have to reinvent the wheel. I just took some cues so that seagulls are trending. I added personalization, which is always a huge point of appeal, and made sure that it was embroidery ready. Now, let's say, for example, your product covers more space. Maybe the design takes up the whole canvas or the whole blanket. Here's how I would adapt the design to that. So back in our Kittl workspace, I'm just gonna make a new artboard that is 5,000 by 6,000 pixels, because that is one of the standard blanket dimensions. And I still want to use this character, but I want him to be doing different things. And so I actually generated this image of the character doing different actions, and I'm just gonna isolate these and crop them out. So I have these four that I want to use. I want to actually make this a repeating pattern on the blanket, but I want to elevate this some more and bring back, for example, the customizable element. Now, this would be a bit harder to do on Printify, but here on Kittl, that would mean having this as a template, live here on Kittl, and every time someone would make an order, I would have to just change the name of the customer. So let's say Linda, and I'm gonna change the font to this one for now. Increase the font size. For the seagull, I wanna make it say something like, "Look, mom, I wanna make it curve slightly." And there we go. Now, to make this a pattern, I don't actually have to like group everything and then paste it and make it repeat manually. I can do that on Printify. So what I'm gonna do is group these four and export it as a PNG. And let's say you're designing for this sweatshirt blanket. I'm just gonna add the group of seagulls. And here I'm gonna click on create pattern. And just like that, it's super easy. It duplicated the image lots of times. And I could resize it, make it as big or as small as I want. And because the image has a transparent background, I could change the color however I like. And in just 10 to 15 minutes, I already found two unique angles to adapt the shirt design that I found in the mom niche. And now I have a unique product that I don't think a lot of people are doing yet. Okay, so you've got these designs adapted to different products, right? What's next? It's time to infiltrate the market. If I'm testing a new product type, I'm not just uploading 5 listings to kind of dip my toes into it. I'm uploading at least 20, sometimes 50. And within those 20 listings, I'm testing multiple angles inside different micro niches, like different graphics, different patterns, different layouts, and of course, different colors. Because 1 or 5 listings is not enough to gather data. Sometimes the product type works, but the graphics don't. Sometimes the niche works, but the design style doesn't. And I found that sometimes even just one tiny tweak can completely change how people respond to a product. But to be clear, we are not treating listings like lottery tickets. Think of it more like market coverage. More listings mean more entry points, more keyword opportunities, and more chances for Etsy to understand that your shop is the go to place for that product type. And this gives us more opportunities to learn what customers actually respond to. And honestly, I think a lot of people quit Etsy too early because they never give themselves enough surface area to succeed. One of the biggest bottlenecks when you're introducing new product types is mockups. A lot of the time, there just aren't enough good templates available yet because the market is still early, which is actually why in the next video, I want to show you guys how I make my own drag and drop mockup templates for products that don't already have these kinds of resources available. Because honestly, that became one of the biggest advantages for me when testing newer products. So do subscribe if you don't want to miss this. And look, I also want to end this video realistically. I'm not gonna sit here expecting every month from now on to magically be at least $12,000 or more. I've learned the hard way that business doesn't work like that. There are, of course, good months, there are bad months, and there are seasonal spikes. And that's just part of running any kind of business online. But I think what gives me a bit more confidence now is that I finally understand my own process better. I'm getting better at spotting opportunities earlier, testing ideas quicker, and getting my foot in the door before things get too overcrowded. And I still have a lot to learn, obviously, but compared to where I was 2 years or even just 1 year ago, I don't feel nearly as lost anymore. Anyway, that's all for today. I hope you found this video helpful and maybe even a little inspiring. If you did, please do me a favor and give this video a like, and I will see you in the next one.